Hello, everyone. I know I'm back again. This is Mesha with As Long as You're Breathing and another Every Life is a Story event. And you all know how much I love bringing you people and their stories. And this evening we have Dominique Florisca. Did I get it right?
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Nailed
There we
it.
go. Yeah. Okay. I practiced and practiced and practiced. Not true. We actually just said it once. But Dom, I'm so glad you're here. This is
Thank
going
you
to
for
be
having
so,
me.
oh, yeah, this is going to be so great. We
I'm
met through
excited.
Maggie's workshop that she did. And
Yeah.
yeah, I was a little like, okay, he won't do this. And Maggie assured me you would. And well, she didn't assure me, but she's like, "Man, should just ask." And so thank you so much for being willing to
How
do
could I not
this.
do this? I got such good vibes off you in the workshop. You
Oh, well,
give off
thank
that
you.
kind of energy, so it's a pleasure to be on here.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank you. Well, you the same. And I was telling everyone, I don't know if you got to hear any of the promos I did for it, but Fibro Life was Fibro, great big letters, LIFE. And that's what I did for years. And then I don't have As Long as You're Breathing, Keep Living with living in capital letters. But I'm always telling people, as long as you're breathing, I want you living in great big capital letters. And so as I was talking about purposeful, I was saying, and our philosophy is the same, and great minds think alike because it's purposeful with great big capital letters. And I said, so I have to have him on. And so I was so glad that you said yes. So without further ado, let's get into your story, Dom. Just take right off and I'll follow you.
Whew, where do you want me to start? How far back do you want me to go? If
Well,
the
in the
story is
beginning,
purposeful. Okay.
wherever
Start,
you want.
start near the end and then cut for a flashback halfway through and then like go for it.
Yeah, cue the camera and yeah, all that stuff. No, however you want to do it, Dom.
All right. Well, I'll start off just by saying what purposeful is to start with.
Okay, great.
And it's a space focused on helping people's growth and well-being in a one sentence kind of one liner, but it's basically a mixture of well-being workshops that I do with groups like I did with yourself and with Maggie,
Mhm.
and I also go into companies as well and talking about mental health, talking about mindfulness, meditation, bringing these tools into the wider culture. And there's also one-on-one sessions helping people find their authentic path in life, their purpose, and navigating that, doing something that's more aligned with their their being, their inner calling. And also running nature retreats is what we're excited to do next year in Romania, working with my brother on that. And my parents are also in Romania, so it's like a big family affair. But yeah, that's kind of what it is. How it started, though, cool. I think that the best place to start would be uh, before I went to uni. I went traveling around South America for 3 months.
Mhm.
And it's that cliche of went around traveling, came back changed. But
Mhm.
I didn't even kind of realize how profound the change was because it was my family that pointed it out to me. Because I studied economics at uni and was just about to study at university. I was very money focused, money oriented, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I had a picture of a boat, like a big super yacht, on next to my wall when I was growing up, and I was like, I want that. I want to be rich enough to have that.
So that was your vision board about,
Yeah,
yeah,
essentially,
okay.
yeah. And then I had a moment in on the streets of Bolivia where I was walking around and surrounded by kind of street vendors, people asking for spare change, locals, tourists, just loads of hecticness and mayhem. And just had this moment of complete contentment is the best way to describe it. And it was so profound. I remember thinking and feeling viscerally that I could be perfectly happy anywhere in the world, even begging for change on the streets of Bolivia, if I was, as long as I was present to that moment. And that's
Wow.
before doing any meditation or anything like that. And it just kind of came up spontaneously. So at that point, I didn't think much of it. It's only like retrospectively looking back that I'm like, Jesus, that did make a big impact because I came back and I was much less money oriented and more focused on kind of international development at the time. So I did
Mhm.
economics and international development, and I had those moments again briefly, nowhere near as powerful as that, but throughout uni and throughout work, where at times I would just be like perfectly content. And I remember just looking out of my uh, my window, bedroom window, one morning at university and just seeing a tree and just being like completely transfixed by that and just like completely content and perfect and happy in that moment. And you can put it down to like, oh, he was traveling, he was just a 18-year-old traveling, and then 20-year-old at uni, no real worries or anything. But these were like visceral, powerful,
Mhm.
yeah, experiences which stayed with me. And I describe to some people, and they go, "Yeah, I know exactly that." And I describe to others, and they're like, "Man, you're crazy, you're tripping."
I understand what you're saying. I have those moments. I'm one of those sunrise, sunset people. I'm one of those every moment can matter people. And I can embrace almost, well, I guess I can embrace any place, whether it be urban or rural, whether it
Mm.
be mountains or water. Hello, glad to have you. Please type over in the chat so we know who you are. And but moments are moments make up our lives. And so every moment is precious and profound. And especially if it is when we allow those moments to be integrated with something, not just time, but time and what is going on in that moment. So if it's time and the bird that flies by, or time and what the sky looks like, and or time and the people, the energy of the people coming by, when we allow those things to happen, when we allow the moment and the energy of the moment and ourselves to be present with that, those things are profound. And that is when we are truly living. That's when we
Mm.
are truly there. That's when we are truly present. And those are the moments that make up our lives. And when we can have those moments, the more of those moments we can have, the more living we are doing. And that doesn't require money, that doesn't require somebody else being with you, that doesn't require you being in any specific place, that requires you having something about you, that requires you having rediscovered something about you. And so I understand exactly what you're saying.
I love it. And there's such a powerful place to be in when you can cultivate that. And even that as a quality in itself to cultivate isn't really recognized in Western psychology, which just deals with the ego and the id and the
Right.
super ego.
Yeah, we
And
sound like a bunch of tree huggers, or a bunch of people who don't realize the value of money and work ethic and how you got to work hard. And nothing I said there is about not keeping your responsibilities, or I'm not
yeah,
saying any of that. I'm saying all those things matter too. But you do all those things, and it's not either or, it's both. And
yeah,
it's this, and it's the and also it's both. It's everything you want. It's what do you want, have it all. It's the
yeah.
whole thing. Yeah.
You maintain that attitude and that, uh, yeah, mind frame towards life
Yeah.
whilst doing what your responsibilities and working probably harder than before because you're more open to everything and you're more there and focused. But that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I ended up, they remind me of a quote of this moment is your life, and
Yes.
how we live our days is how we live our lives. And
Absolutely.
how we live each moment
Yeah.
is powerfully
Yes.
correlated to the rest of our lives.
Yes, yes. Okay, so go on. So you had people that were you were feeling these content moments, and you had people that were
Yeah.
like, you tripping.
So I ended up having these moments kind of just subtly to myself, though, because it is so uh, well, uncouth in in modern society to talk about these kinds of things, to experience them. And I ended up working in consulting for a couple of years in London, and that kind of lifestyle really didn't resonate with me. I could feel my energy just depleting, and I was from the outside living with three good mates from uni, great circle of friends, and had good job, good relationship, and everything should have been like ticking all the boxes. But just because those boxes are ticked doesn't mean that you're really fulfilled deep down.
No.
So uh, I ended up having one moment where I was just watching some music video, Alt J, a song called Taro, and the music video came up. Some scenes were shot in India, and I just had goosebumps down like the whole of my body, like one of those whole body sensations, where I just at that point I knew it was time to quit. And by the end of that day, I ended up calling 5 different people saying, like, I'm looking to get into an NGO, to work abroad somewhere, and preferably India. Do you know anyone? Do you know anywhere? Like anything like that? And eventually it was my brother's best friend from school's girlfriend's best friend from home from Romania that put me in touch with the founder in India.
I'm glad that was so direct. You know,
Right? What? May as well skip the middleman, right? And
India. Wow, India.
yeah, so I ended up going and working there for 2 years, and it was the most surreal. This is just hilarious way that I ended up getting the job, where just a 15-minute conversation while I was in my consulting office, just kind of like huddled over, and I ended up seeing or just chatting with the founder, and she was like, "This is what we're doing. This is what we need you for. What can you do?" I was like, "This is my skill set from consulting. This is what I believe in." "Cool, you sound perfect. Can you teach?" I was like, "Sure, I can try and teach." "What kind of age? Can you teach English to 16 to 18-year-olds?" I was like, "Yeah." "You mean A level? I don't have an A level." They're like, "It's fine. Your English will be better than most of the Indian teachers out there."
Yes.
But I ended up going out there for 2 years, and then I really enjoyed that. Had a lot of that, and I was working harder in that than I was in consulting, and getting more fulfillment from it. Probably because I was more connected to what the mission was and what it was
Right.
doing. But then COVID came, and I ended up leaving India, and I moved back to Romania, where my family's originally from. And that's the point where Purposeful started. That's the real beginning. You
The
talk
real
about
beginning.
start from the beginning. There's like different beginnings.
Right. There's, yeah, that beginning is relevant. Yes. So,
Yeah.
okay. So you're in Romania because of COVID. I mean, we're kind of all where we are because of COVID, right? So
Yeah.
you're in back in Romania because of COVID, and you decide to start Purposeful. So why?
So I was living in the countryside where my parents live at the moment, in the mountains, really remote, perfect place to be locked down. And I was spent the first couple of months, a month, just recovering, rejuvenating, because I'd given everything, like a lot of myself those 2 years. I was working ridiculous hours, sometimes like 100-hour work weeks. And now it's just time to like, after going outwards, to go inwards.
Mhm.
And after a couple of months, I started asking myself, all right, now that you've got a bit more balance back in your life, what's the most useful thing I could do with my time right now? Not like what should I do with the rest of my life, because that's too big a question. You can get lost in that. But what's the most useful thing I could do with my time right now? And we're going back to like that present moment, focus on the present
Right.
moment.
Focus on the moment.
And I ended up having chats with people about their purpose. Just friends and friends of friends were calling me saying, "How did you leave the corporate world? Why did you do it? How did you do it? How did you come to the decision?" I'm not satisfied. So many people I was chatting to just weren't satisfied in the job, and they were just ticking along in that
Mhm.
9 to 5 and not enjoying it. And there's nothing wrong with a 9 to 5 at all. I have
Right.
friends that are working in the corporate world and they absolutely love it and they're cut out for it, and like they live and breathe it. And I have a lot of respect for them because they're literally doing what they love. Then a lot
Yes.
of people were just there going, not really happy with this. I'm just ticking along because that's what most other people are doing. Why did you decide to go to India? What are you doing now? And then I ended up, Purposeful started off just as a purpose platform. So I got all the best videos that inspired me and exercises that I did I found really useful, like around values and intention setting, and just created a platform, a place where people could go to. And then I put that out into the world and created a purpose challenge as well, which I think is still on the website. 5 days, you get an exercise each day, and
Yes.
it just goes progressively through.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, getting you closer and closer, 5 steps closer to your purpose. And
Yes, it comes to your email, and it is quite interesting. Yes, I've read most of them. Well, I've read them all, but it's like I read so much. It's like, oh, that was great, and then I'm like, okay, now I've read 20 other things. What did that say? So, but yes, it comes to your email. It absolutely does. As soon as you sign up at your website, bam, 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 here they come. You know,
yeah,
it's several days in a row, and yes, it's a very interesting challenge. Yes,
yeah, and that's
yeah.
the one that I found really useful when I was like in consulting, deciding
Hmm.
what to do next. And those exercises really helped me. But then it started off with that, and then people were asking me, okay, I've done these 5 exercises. I want to talk to someone. I've looked at all the stuff on the platform. I want to talk to someone. It's like, I'll put you in touch with some life coaches if you want. And I'm like, no, I want to talk to you. I was like, okay, yeah, I can take the hint. Thank you very much, universe. I'll take the hint.
Yes.
Got certified as a life coach because people need that validation as some certification, some sort of qualification, especially in the West. And what it did was just it brought together a lot of different things, and got to the point where I was having one-on-one sessions, and then that evolved into some of my clients saying, can you come into my company and give a well-being workshop, like a mental health workshop? And it just progressed naturally like that. But there was a moment near the start of the PurposeFULL where I was kind of asking myself, okay, what's this really about? Like, what am I actually doing here? And the answer that came up deep down was, I'm trying to cultivate that sense of contentment, that powerful sense of being there in the present moment, open to life and to everything, and appreciating what is there, and living in that as much as I can, and supporting others to live in that as much as they can, and to develop that inner contentment. And one way to develop the inner contentment is through finding your purpose. And that, during the workshop that we were on together, I was talking about that's different levels for different people. Some people just want a different career path. Other people want to tap into that with every breath, like with every moment. It's like it's how we relate to the outside world.
Right. What I said, I believe this morning when I was promoting it all was, I was quite sure that when you were talking about contentment, you weren't talking about, oh, ho hum, I want to be content, but you were talking about contentment. You were talking about big, bold contentment that filled you, contentment that that didn't leave you, okay, there's nothing else for me to do, content, but full and complete, that kind of contentment. Because some people think of contentment as, okay, well, I've done it now, I'm content, and I'm complete, and that kind of thing. And I'm like, I'm quite sure that's not what he means, or it wouldn't be full and big letters. And so but there are some people who I'm quite sure do come to you, and at first, I'm curious though, the ones who come to you and they say they want to know, I want to know what I want to do with my job. Do they really stop there? Or do they really want to know about their whole life? Do most of them that start and just want to talk about their job, do they go on to talk about their whole life? Do they integrate it? Or are there some who do just come and just talk about, I want to know what my job needs to be? I'm curious.
It's half and half.
Is it really?
It's
That's surprising to me. That is so surprising to me. I would have thought that, it's because of my nature. It's because of my nature. My nature, I can't separate the two, but that's who I am. Because who I am and what I am, because, well, I'm a being in the moment person. So what I do is, that's who I am. So I can't imagine, but yeah.
But it's fascinating because I had the same thought as well, the same presumption, and it's completely different for each person. This is why one of the reasons I love the job is because it's so different for each person. So I go in there with like completely open mindset, not thinking I know what's best for this person or anything. Right. It's just completely open and present for them for their journey to unfold as it needs to at that point in their lives. And some people come, and as soon as you start digging into, okay, what should I do? Then you're like, okay, well, what do you really want? That you go further down in that. It's like, how do I separate what I want for myself to what other people in society and expectations want?
There's that expectation word. Oh yeah. And when you put it with society, that is, what you expect for yourself, that's one thing. You have a right to have expectations of yourself. But when
societal, familial obligations.
Right. I'm a firm believer in it. It took me a long time to get here because, well, it actually didn't. For many years, I've been gravitating to this and coming to the understanding of it. It took me, it's only been recently that I've been able to articulate what I've known to be true, but I've not been able to articulate. And that is, we can't expect of someone else. We can only expect of ourselves. And so, what we have to do is define, this is what you can expect of me, and then let other people tell us what we can expect of them. But because once we start expecting of other people, then we're placing demands on them and defining them, and we can't do that. We have to let them come to us and say, this is who I am. And if who we are resonate with each other, then that's going to work. And if not, or if we want it to work out badly enough, then we can figure out, some sort of compromise,
Yeah.
but we can't be, I expect you to do this. Once we start doing that, then we're expecting them to change. We're wanting to change them, but we're not okay with who they are.
Yeah, and you're just projecting your own stuff onto them, essentially.
Absolutely. And so we can't do that. If we want to add value to their lives, we have to come in and say, this is what you can expect of me. And they have to
Yeah.
tell us that will add value to my life. And then they have to tell us, and this is what you can expect of me. And well, that will add value to my life. And then you've got a 1 + 1 = 3, and 3 is the relationship. And so then that's because you've added value to each other's life, and that built a relationship. And then that you continually tweak that, because that's I say every relationship's a threesome. The third person in the relationship is the relationship. And
Nice.
so yeah, I get people's attention with that. And so but I bet
That
yes,
snaps people up, doesn't it?
it does, it definitely gets people's attention. And but
Yeah.
yeah, we
Some people,
can't say expect. Yeah, so go ahead.
so yes, some people come and they kind of untangle all of this, and like one question leads to another, and it just kind of
Right,
spiraled. And there's so much that you can learn about yourself just from that one question of what should I do? And
right.
people that are open and willing to dig deep enough, yeah, they're the ones that have the most significant transformation, and they're the ones that start connecting with that purpose moment to moment. And but then there's others that just aren't ready for that at that point in their lives, and they come and we have these conversations and they just stay a little bit more surface level. And because for them that's what is needed at that point.
Sure.
And I kind of probe, and I don't push too much, because I just try and hold space for whatever does come up. And so if I look back at my own journey as well, if someone was talking to me about this when I was in consulting, I, I probably would have been quite into it, actually. But not to the same extent that I am now. And uh, I would have needed like those 2 years in India to fully commit myself to this kind of every moment contentment, every moment kind of focus on being instead of doing. And some people like will need that, and will just need something more fulfilling, or something where they're serving others for a year, 2 years in their life, and then that kind of gets them in a different mindset, in a different space, physically, mentally, emotionally, and then they become more open to it, and then you can see that kind of opening them up.
You said something very curious there, because obviously you help people figure out what they are going to do.
Yeah.
But you said you help people with being, not doing. And so, want to explain that, because so many people don't get that. They're like, "Well, you have to do. What do you mean being? You have to do." And so can you explain that? You want to talk to that a bit?
Yeah, I'd say being is the attitude that you bring into each moment, and it's the way that you relate to the world around you and to yourself. And there's being in just slowing down and just meditating, doing yoga, journaling, and taking the me time. Essentially, that's like the kind of standard being, or the main thing to prescribe to people to start with. But then that ends up spilling into the rest of their lives, and they end up taking that, well, focus that they have on the present moment, and on uh, yeah, that contentment that they cultivate in those quiet times, into the actual doing as well. So you end up being while doing, and you end up enjoying like even high stress situations just from a place of deeper inner stillness. And you're able to relate to everything in a different way, instead of getting caught up in the hurricane of thoughts, feelings that come up, and like take over you, and the outside world that comes and throws all sorts of stuff at you. And these are practical stuff that you need to deal with, and you're able to deal with them. It's just you're dealing with them from a different place, from a deeper place internally.
Right. There's so many ways you can address and talk about. There's so many facets to the being doing issue, and we could. I mean, we
How do
could
you see it?
talk. Yeah, we could talk for days about it. Well, but one of the things I was going to bring up about what you were saying is when you know how to be, when you know how to be in your beingness, you actually you have the energy of unconditional love around you. And
Hmm.
so that being in that energy, being in your energy, being you're able to push the chaos back so you can do, and others can be, so doing can be going on around you, and it doesn't, that chaos doesn't come in on you.
Yeah, if I can
Yeah.
add to that, because that's great. I'll tweak that a tiny bit. Instead of push the chaos back, you absorb the chaos and love it almost, because it's just like becomes okay to be in that chaos.
It becomes okay. Yes, it doesn't affect you. It's okay. It's okay that everything around you is
Yeah,
chaotic, and it's like okay, it's you're able to be in the chaos, and it's you don't absorb the negative energy of the chaos, the
mm,
negative energy, the chaotic energies. You don't absorb them. You're not affected by them because unconditional love has reflective qualities to it and deflective qualities to it. So
yeah,
you stay, that energy stays around you, and actually helps, if those that get close enough to you, helps bring um, bring them out of the chaos too. If they will allow it, it helps bring order to chaos. So that's just one aspect of the being doing thing. We could go on forever about it because there's so much about being and doing, and,
yeah.
and so um, that but that's just one aspect of it. And
But this
so
stuff is not what you're taught in schools, and it should be. And I,
oh,
I find it bloody fascinating because it's as if someone's been lying to me most like all of my life, and
and
I've just been told to do. You need to get these grades. You need to get this job. You need to get house, kids. You need to keep doing. And then underneath that, there's an art of being where you can actually like cultivate that unconditional love and that present moment awareness and that openness, and nobody teaches you that, and it's even taboo to talk about it at times.
well, now you've hit on my purpose in life, because that is exactly my purpose, is that we were not taught this. And because we were not taught this, we don't know how to manage our energy. And when we manage our energy correctly and know how to be, we take the time to know how to be. And because we take the time to do that, we have more time to do. And so there's so much to that, but we have to teach how to manage our energy, and energy management is a lot of things. It is,
Mm.
so it's energy hygiene, I even call it. We're not
Mm.
taught these, we're not taught how to clear our energy, we're not taught how to ground, we're not taught how to stay centered, we're not taught the importance of chakras and what they are, we're not taught about our energy bodies and how to keep those healthy so that our physical bodies can also then stay healthy. We're not taught about the integration of the two. All of those things we were not taught. And so that's kind of my purpose now, is to all the things that we weren't taught. That's okay. We weren't taught those things. Hello, so that's what I'm to teach now, is kind of all the things we should have been taught when we were kids. That's kind of my job now. So
I love it. That is beautiful, and that's so worthwhile. I think it's so needed in today's world where we have certain cultures have almost everything that we need at our disposal, and yet still unhappy and dissatisfied because we don't have these skills and we're not taught them.
we don't
And
have these skills, absolutely, and because we don't have those skills, we don't even know what the problem is. And so all the solutions that we're being given, they're band-aids, because we're not dealing with the energy body part of it. And so yeah, that's why I bring all of you on, is so that
mhm.
the other people who come, they're like, because not everybody's going to resonate with me. Some people
Yeah.
will, and then I'm the person for them, but others are going to resonate with you, and some resonate with Maggie, and some resonate with Elizabeth. And so that's why I bring everyone on, is to bridge the two, those who need and those who have, who have it to give. And so yes, so do go on. Yes.
There's so many different aspects that you can bring into this, because
Yes.
essentially what you're trying to do is teach people how to cultivate that contentment, right? That deep inner contentment, not content with the game of Candy Crush that they just won.
Yes. I've heard several people just in the past few days talk about, and I try not to say it very much because I don't want to offend anyone, but talk about how um, they don't own a television, or they've turned the television off, or what few
Yeah.
things they do watch. It's very select, and they clear their energy afterwards, et cetera, et cetera. We don't realize the energies that come through. And of course, with what I do, I'm on social media a lot, and I clear my energy so many times during the day. And I
Hmm.
work on social media, but I don't scroll down through.
Yeah.
And when I do have to scroll down through because I have to find things, or I'm looking for information myself or whatever, I really have to put into practice then all that energy management stuff I was just talking about. I have to bring myself back to center. I have to clear myself. I have to do all those things because yes, there are so many things we don't understand about the drains that we put on ourselves. Not just the drains, but the things that distract us from self, from knowing self, from understanding self, from being present. And when we are present in life and living in the moment, our lives are so much fuller and so different than the
Mm.
lives we were living, which are entertainment and distraction. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm an entertainer, I'm a singer, a songwriter. There's nothing wrong with entertainment, but it can be enjoyed on a different level. It can
Mm.
be, it's healing. It's, you know, you can go hear music and you can feel the music and be with the music and with the entertainer, or you can go and you're just kind of there. You know, it's a difference of, are you doing when you're there? Okay, I'm going to here, or are you being when you're there? It's the
Yeah.
difference. And so there's so many facets to this. You're right. We could go on and on, but go ahead.
And the diet as well. You talk about like what you eat is
Yes.
so important and affects your mental states and your emotions and everything. But not just your physical diet, your like mental diet, the
Yes.
impressions that you take in, which
Yes.
is like instead of giving your attention to news story that has nothing to do with you from around the world, which is just like a catchy headline, which
Yes.
doesn't actually add anything to your knowledge base that's actually useful, but it just distracts you for a little while and kind of gives you a little kick out of it. That itself deposits a sediment in you, like a mental impression, sankharas, as they
Yes.
call it in Vedic philosophy. And then you have a buildup of these like mental
Yes.
impressions and vasanas,
Yes.
and that's what
Yes.
collectively kind of blocks us from recognition with our true self moment to moment. And that's where this like energy, clearing your energy field and trying to get rid of
Yes.
these vasanas and letting these impressions that we've taken in essentially like go out as well. And then once we clear that internal
Yes.
part of ourselves, then we realize our true nature is actually just pure awareness, almost just self-reflective awareness and pure loving awareness is the best way that I've felt it myself, but the best way has been described by people much, much smarter and more advanced than me.
Well, Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about, like, in the honeymoon effect, and the high vibration that we're really supposed to be at, and of course, Stephen Hawkins, he did the scale, and identified the vibrations, and bliss and joy and love and all, and the high vibrations we want to be at. And basically, when we are content, when we are in our purpose, when we are in our being, we are very high vibrational beings who are we are happy people, and
Mm,
happy, joyful people. Okay, when I'm happy and joyful, I'm I'm perky, giggly, all those things, but I'm those things when I'm not happy, okay? Because that's me. So, not that doesn't mean that everybody who's living a joyful life is like me. Joy doesn't look the same on everyone. So being
Yeah.
at the vibration of joy, of unconditional love, being at those high vibrations doesn't mean that everybody's going around laughing and giddy. But those vibrations do feel the same as far as the energy of them. And that is where we need to be healthy and happy and all of those things, and to be attracting into our lives the things that are going to sustain that and continue us down our path. And so that is our goal. And with all these other lower vibrations attached to us, or with these energies stuck in us and
Mm.
blocking, we can't do that. And so that's what you're talking about. But yes, until when people come to you and they're only at a certain level, and there's nothing wrong with that, because until you are at a level, what I have found, and I have at first with my guides, whenever they would teach me something and have me tell, and I would tell people, and then I don't know, 3 months later, 2 weeks later, 2 days later, they would give me another revelation. I'd be like, wait, I just told people such and such, and now you want me to go tell them it's this way? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, but then I finally started to understand we are given what we're able to understand, and it's a spiraling up effect. So it's not that I was lied to by my guides or given the wrong information. We're given what we're able to understand. We're met where we're at. So, and that's what you're doing with your clientele that come to you. You're meeting them where they're at. And if they're able to be, if you're able to help them at this one level, then that's what you do. And that's amazing,
Yeah.
because then when they're ready for the next level, they know who to come to, because you have been so gracious and held space for them at the level that they were ready for at that time. And so
Yeah.
that's amazing, because you've set them, you've set the space for them. The space is there for them to come to when they're ready for the next level.
Yeah, and part of it is hilarious from a logical point of view, because you could be telling them one week in, well, like one week you tell them one thing, next week you tell them something else, which could be completely different. And both are actually true at the time that you're telling them. That's exactly what they need. If you
That's
tell
right.
someone at one point, oh, you need to drop the ego isn't real, and you just merge with the oneness that is our true nature, one week they'll go, piss off. I don't believe that. But
Yes.
then if you tell them then, and then instead that week, that you need to nurture the inner child, you need to work on like the making that ego part of yourself whole and become like love it a bit more, then that might be what they resonate with that week. And then they go through their own journey through that week, through those insights. And then the next week you say, okay, drop the ego, and they're like, okay, yeah, I think I'm now I can understand that.
Right. And it's because it's not either or. It is, it's both. We are this we have become this society of polarity, where we think that everything is either or, black and
Yeah.
white, but it's not. It is where we are at the time. And then because we are constantly growing and changing, and that's like the whole division between science and spirituality being the energy aspect, the spirit aspect,
Yeah.
the energy aspect. No, we cannot divide the two. It's both. It's not this or that. It's this and that. It's
So many paradoxes that I'm encountering on this journey, which just need to be
yes,
reconciled, which are becoming reconciled on the journey. My
yes,
favorite one that me and my brother were struggling with a few years ago was, okay, we want to become better version of ourselves, but we also we need to accept ourselves as we are, and also want to improve ourselves at the same time. Which, if you accept yourself as you are, it kind of leads to that lethargy. That I'm okay as I am. I don't need to do anything to fix myself to improve. And then the other side is, I do want to become the best version of I can to embody that loving awareness.
you
And then
just
you
you
can
just
do
made
both
my
at the
point.
same time. Yeah.
Yeah, you just made my point, because you are stuck with the thinking in a duality or a polarity, that you can't be okay with yourself, and at the same time you're thinking it's either or, and it's not. It's both. You
Yeah.
certainly accept yourself as you are, but it's this and become the best version of that you can. You accept who you are. You are authentically this person. That is your base value. That is the core of who you are. And you accept that and you love that. But that doesn't mean that you can't grow and expand and become more. That doesn't mean that when you look back, you say, and oh, that was an awful that no, it's not either or. It's
Yeah.
wow, I had such a great beginning and look what I've done with it. It's both. It's not either or. It's this
And you're
and
loving
that
the journey and the unfoldment of the journey itself as it is.
absolutely,
What a
absolutely.
great place to be. I want to
Absolutely.
I want to take this conversation back to there's one point where you said you're talking about our true natures,
Yes.
and there's our true nature being open and being loving and being joyful. That's how you used to describe it. You're talking
Joyful,
about
joyful.
your joyful self. And I've got an example of how it's coming up in society at the moment, how it's coming up in my workshops at times where I work with kids and with adults both. So I do some work in schools and some work in corporates and companies. I did a work in schools, and I'd normally introduction to mindfulness and using mindfulness as a term of connecting to that present moment and that contentness in the present moment and that acceptance. And
Mm-hmm.
I asked kids and adults the same question, and I'd ask kids, and this is working with 6-year-olds, and I'd ask them, when was the last time that you were really present for a moment and you didn't have many thoughts coming through your head, or if they came, they just went straight away, and you're just present and content and happy with whatever was there in front of you without missing a beat? One of the kids was like, I think I had that. Yeah, last week when I was in a car, my parents were driving, and I was looking out the window, and there was just, I was just watching the world go by, and there wasn't really anything on my mind or anything. I was just watching. I was like, that's perfect. What are you doing in this workshop? You've already got the knack of it.
Yes.
And then I asked exactly the same question in a corporate workshop, corporate setting, and I ask it quite often, and the reaction I normally get is, "What do you mean?" No, like, oh, I can't even remember. And
Right.
there's something to be said in that kids don't have the same pressures as adults, and they've gone through the stage of maturation, of becoming adults and integrating the ego and socializing. But there is like our true nature is that joyful present state. And
Yes.
we do get a lot of things that block us from it, whether it's mental impressions, whether it's conditioning, trauma, whether it's all sorts of things from society or from ourselves that ends up blocking access to our true joyful nature. And to the point where you even mentioned that our true nature is joyful and peaceful, and most of the people will look at you like, what do you mean? No, look around, a lot of people are miserable. And that's what a lot of people have come to believe is the real nature of humans. And there's like a conception that we're kind of stuck with. And all of this work that you're doing, that I'm doing, that other people are doing, there's so many different aspects that you can approach it to help unknot everything that's inside.
Right. Yeah. It's a beautiful unfolding, and often what we find is a great deal of why we are quote unquote unhappy is because we've been told we're unhappy, or we've been told we are something we are not. And so once we get those layers off, we find that our true selves, we are happy. It's getting to what we really are. And then we're like, whoa, I like this person. This person I like, so there's so much there. So tell us how you help people do all of this. So do you want to get into that? Because now you got me curious. I kind of know what you do because of the workshop, but because it's really interesting. So do you want to get into a little of that?
Yeah, we can happily get into that.
Okay.
It's different for almost every
It's different
client.
for everybody. I know. So what are some of the things you do?
Yeah, so I essentially hold space as best as I can for that person and open myself up to whatever that person needs at the time. And there's so many different approaches that I've used or can use. And there's the question of, okay, most often people are, okay, what should I do with my life? I'm looking for my my purpose for this stage of my life. What should I do? And then it's kind of, okay, well, what do you want to do? And you can go into um, what lights people up, their values, and start working with that. And I can sense, we can all sense when you're talking to someone and they're talking about, yeah, I'm thinking of taking this part-time admin job of doing this, and you can see their energy just being quite flat. I'm also thinking of volunteering at the school and doing this thing, and you can just see them light up. And it's
Yes.
picking up on these things which I don't think our society rewards that much. And having someone that's there to be able to mirror those back to you, you go, right, what you said right there embodied a completely different energy.
Right.
And it's energy management as well is a main one, because
Yes.
you identify one thing, whether it's volunteering to go work in India for an NGO, let's take that as an example, and then you go out there and you might realize that okay, this is really tough and my energy is actually being quite flat. And it's okay, why is it flat? Is it stuff that's coming up from your past? Is it how you're relating to the present moment? Is it the actual job itself? And you can go back into examining the past if that's what resonates the most. So some people end up trying to dig into the past and unpick the conditioning, and then once they have a better understanding of that, then they can focus on the present moment, cultivating that. Other people want to go straight into, right, I'm aware that my attitude affects pretty much everything I do, and I want to cultivate that better attitude. What are the tools? And then we can use meditation, we can use journaling, mindfulness, everyday exercises, grounding techniques, and using these to cultivate that in everyday life.
Right.
And some people want to focus on that everyday life. Some people want practical tools. Other people just want their perspective slightly adjusted, essentially. So sometimes it's just some insight that you can get from a conversation and from how we relate to ourselves, to the world. And then that little insight and that little kind of, that light bulb moment where you just had something and go, yeah, I'm being miserable just because of my own choosing. Like I'm literally choosing this to stay in this mindset.
Choosing.
And then sometimes that clicks, and say someone could meditate for like a year and have that kind of realization or have that the same level of breakthrough. Sometimes that can happen in a conversation, and then that happens. And then it's also, once you have these insights, integrating them into your life, because you have it, and then you have all the practical aspects of life, all the obligations that come in. So I honestly love it because it's different with each person, and I've tried to educate myself as much as possible, and done life coaching certification, and that kind of brought together loads of different exercises and tools that I've done before. And there's lots of mindfulness that I've done. So I've meditated for the last 6 years or so. I calculated with my brother about a month and a half in silent retreats, and that cultivates a fair bit of self-awareness.
Yes.
And that but now what I'm doing is this stuff to do with energy management, to do with inner contentment. And there's so many different ways to go about it, because there's no one right way, which is why I think like our logical minds of modern day science needs one framework, structured approach, which I think if we had that, just chuck it in schools, get it verified by science, and then people would be like, great, but I don't think that's how it works.
It does not.
And at the moment, I'm reading a book called The Greater Psychology by Sri Aurobindo, who is a Indian sage from the 40s, 50s. And he talks about the psychology of Freud and of Jung, but takes it one step further. Instead of just healing the ego and individuation and that process, he talks about what's beyond that and the spirit, and integrate like in a very...
Got to put them together. Yes.
Yeah, he's literally combining science and spirituality together.
Yes.
And talking about evolution and religion as well, and like combining these, that you can actually have the process of evolution being proven by science doesn't exclude the intelligent design aspect as well.
It's not either or, it's both and. It's this and
design, which works through evolution, which is working through us in this very moment. And embodying that as well is the how he saw it as the purpose of human evolution at the moment, to try and embody that
Yes.
awareness of what we really
Yes.
are, and
Yes.
educating myself in all these different approaches, because I might have a chat with someone and I sometimes sense what would resonate with them most. Otherwise, I start talking to them about Sri Aurobindo. You'd be like, "Nah, what's this? This is bullshit."
Yes.
But then you bring the other approach. You bring the more grounded Tibetan Buddhist approach, say, for example, and then that will resonate more. So it's kind of expanding my own awareness of these things in order to expand it through
Gotcha.
others as well.
Because as we discussed a little earlier, you have to meet people where they're at, and so that's what you're doing. You're familiarizing yourself with multiple ways to meet people where they're at, and that's why I bring everyone here to do this, is because
Yeah.
it's what resonates with someone, and I'm fine with whatever resonates, because while I have a certain way that I see things and believe, I don't
Mm.
care what someone's belief system is. What someone's belief system is perfectly fine, because it's not this or that. There's no polarity here. There's no, that's not here.
Yeah,
And
and
so,
they complete each other. They don't compete against each other.
absolutely no competition, but completion. Absolutely. So tell us about what you and your brother are doing, because I've seen the website and boy, does that look cool. So tell us about that.
Yeah, this is the next stage of Purposeful.
Yes.
And it's a great little adventure. That the project in itself is an adventure, but we're bringing together 8 people for a retreat in nature, in Romania, in the mountains, in the countryside, and nearest neighbor is about a kilometer away. And we have a yoga platform there. You're overlooking the valley, and it's essentially a place and a week-long retreat, week-long event where you can break free of any 9 to 5 that you might have and just kind of get a bit of distance and perspective on your regular routines, regular life, and gives you a chance to rewild yourself, rewild your soul, as we put it. And you go there to talk about all these conditioning and all these like impressions, sankharas that we have formed in our minds. And our natural self is quite spontaneous and wild and joyful, and you let everything express itself, not
Yes.
through the mental filter that we've accumulated, but through the just naturally. And it's a chance to do that. So there's yoga, there's meditation, there's workshops, plenty of free time to chill, there's loads of hammocks, there's playful dogs, and there's lots of forest around you, nature walks, grounding, energy management, a lot of the stuff that we've talked about. And it's a week where you're surrounded with 10 like-minded people, 8 others, me, my brother, and you can engage in all these activities. You have a break from your kind of current routine, and you can break out of it, and you can just, without those external impositions on you, those external obligations, you have a week where you can just settle into your natural self with like-minded people. And I've learned from previous events that I've done that you bring like-minded people together in the right environment, hold the space for them well, and give them some rough schedule or framework, and then
Yes.
you let it unfold naturally, because the event itself will take on an energy of its own, and you can't guide it. People will interact with each other in different ways. They'll want to
Yes.
engage in different things, and that's where the relationships will be formed, and the 1+1 is 3. So what's what's
Right.
uh what's 8+8? What's 4+4?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I mean, you're absolutely right. It will be organic and spontaneous and take on a life of its own, and everyone will be different and right. It'll be right. And
Yeah.
so that will be amazing. So how do we have like 6 minutes left? So what do you want to, what have we not covered that you want to, and then how do people work with you and all of those things that people need to know? So what's left for us to cover, Dom?
We've covered most of the story of Purposeful, if I'm honest, of what I do, the individual sessions, the groups, the uh, nature retreats, and the online tools. So yeah, I guess I'll tell people where to find me. www.purposefull with two L's. You don't have to type it in capital letters. .uk. So
Oh,
purposeful.uk. And on there, you'll find pretty much everything. You'll find the Purpose Challenge. You get
mhm.
this free one to sign up to. You get the emails in your inbox straight away, one each day. And that's a nice one to get started with. There's lots of free guided meditations. There's useful blogs. There's podcasts me and my brother have recorded around topics like these. Uh,
Yes.
yeah, lots of useful content. Some full guides in there as well. Nutrition guides, intention setting guides, and the individual sessions. You can reach out to me at dom@purposeful.uk. It's also on the website. And the workshops, similar, just reach out to that address. And for the nature retreats, it's on the website. And yeah, that's about Purposeful in a nutshell.
When are the workshops starting? When are the workshops starting?
So the workshops are done ad hoc, essentially. So they're
Oh,
done for each client individually.
okay.
And it's normally someone that wants me to come into their office or their
Okay.
school or their university. And uh, the topic can be mental health, can be well-being, can be
Okay.
mindfulness. So during the pandemic, a lot of the focus was on well-being. There was a lot of intro to mindfulness,
Okay.
well-being, and there's some companies that there's like an investment firm that I did a workshop with, and I was expecting everyone to be investment firm of like alpha male, kind of constricted, not open at all,
Mhm.
very open. It was the first time they'd done anything like that, and it was amazing to see it. And yeah, the head of HR who I was talking to was really like pleasantly surprised to see that I had that impact on them.
Good.
And yeah, some certain other organizations are a bit more closed off, and that's absolutely fine because that's where they're at, and you meet people in that place and introduce it in a nice grounded way instead of uh, bringing all the energetic aspects into it, which might
Yes.
scare some people off.
So, people here, could they do workshops with you like via Zoom? Will you do that kind of thing? So people in the States could bring you in to
Yeah,
do, yes, that you'll do
so
that.
workshops are virtual and in person.
Okay,
Yeah,
great,
most of
great.
my business has been through virtual because of the
Yes,
pandemic for the last year
right,
and a half, 2 years.
right.
Um,
Okay,
so yeah, and in person vary from 1 hour to half a day.
okay. All
And
right.
the retreat itself is in June, the first one, next June
Wow,
2022.
that's not far away. So I know you all are getting excited about that.
Yeah,
Yes,
we're just
yeah.
preparing the infrastructure at the moment. So last time I was there in Romania, it's on my parents' land. And last time we were in Romania, we were digging the trenches for the pipes for the compost toilet. It's an eco retreat, so everything is working in tune with nature. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it's a great place to ground yourself and reroute and rewild. So yeah, there's lots of fun physical hard work that goes into it before you can have 10 people there together in one place at the same time.
I love how you said fun physical work. I'm
I love it.
thinking,
There's
uh,
something I love about it. I made a fence for the terrace that we have, and it was a fence where we ended up cutting a shape in each little fence post. So
mhm.
there's a love heart and a tree.
Oh,
Nature,
that
love
sounds
nature.
cool. Uh-huh,
Yeah.
yeah. Now
Um,
see that is fun work. That's fun.
but if you have to do like 150 little slabs of wood and cut the same thing in each one, it takes like 2 or 3 minutes. But I ended up, I don't know, I called it, what was it, mindful autopilot, where you go there and you're just like zoned into that one
Right.
thing and you're just there present for it. And you're,
Right.
yeah, Zen autopilot is what I called it.
Zen autopilot. I like it.
So
I like it.
I'm not taking the mickey when I say it's fun physical work.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward. I hope you'll come back and talk to us more because I
Happily.
loved the meditation type of that you led and the exercises that you did. So maybe you can come back and do something like that with us and show people what you're talking about. So give us a
Yeah,
taste of
happily.
that, maybe.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can get some of our people here to book you and do some workshops with you virtually. That would be awesome.
Happily. I love what you're doing with this whole show.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love what you're doing. Yes. And over in Romania too, that sounds like it's going to be amazing too. So thank you very much, Don. It's awesome of you to take the time. So thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
having me.
Yes.
That's actually been a pleasure. It's honestly been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, you all, you know what I'm going to say. It's your life, your story. You get to write it your way. And if it's not going the way you want, it doesn't have to be a Monday. It doesn't have to be at the top of the hour. It can be just when you realize it, just start writing it your way right then. And as long as you're breathing, you're not out of ink. And as long as you're breathing, all of us, I want us living in great big capital letters. So see you all again soon. Thanks for joining us. Bye.